I wanted to do this with Gino before we leave Geneva College today. It is Veterans Day, and I want to take a little bit of time to talk about veterans. And of course, the Marine Corps just recently celebrated their 250th birthday. Hoorah! My dear friend Ron Shufa, who grew up in Beaver Falls, is no longer here, but I was text messaging with his the lovely Bridget earlier today, my good friend Dr. Shufa, and I was thinking about Ron. And then Doug Haddix comes over to me, one of your assistants, part of that New Brighton connection, and his father, very instrumental to me, was the principal at the elementary school that I went to, was the trainer for many years on the football team. And I was thinking about this gentleman earlier today, former head coach at New Brighton, Joe Greco's dad, who was a friend of my father and mother, he and his wife. And I was thinking about the Marine Corps, because Pat McAfee, who grew up in Plum, his show was on location there today, and they're going to have college game day, first time in 20 years at the Acrisure for the Pitt Notre Dame game. But I love the service, all branches. My father in the Navy, my grandfather, my uncle in the Marine Corps, obviously another uncle who was a prisoner of war, was in the armed forces. He was a paratrooper. So I've always been around the military and always take time, and tonight we're going to do our salute to veterans with the State Senator Devlin Robinson, who is a Marine, who has a great story to tell. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And Bob Dvorak, award-winning author, always doing books on the 82nd Airborne. Actually was there during Desert Storm as a reporter on the ground with the soldiers. And it's something we've been doing for years, so we're going to do that tonight. But I got to share this, and this really is something really for, I guess, local ears and eyes, if you will, but it's something I should do and I want to do. You know, Mr. Greco was always larger than life, right? Just smiling, this, that, whatever. And, you know, his son Joey reminds me so much of him, as does Joey's beautiful bride, Patty. And they got married very young, and I always knew that it was the secret sauce. They would make it work, and they did, and I have such admiration for him. But I'd see Mr. Greco at my house all the time with my parents, or I'd see him in the neighborhood cutting grass. He would smile, how are you doing, what's going on? But I never knew the backstory. And then he passes away, and the obituary, he's being laid out at Spratt's Funeral Home, where everybody goes in New Brighton when they meet their maker. And I didn't realize he was an orphan. He lived in the children's home, which is an amazing story in itself in New Brighton. But he also was in the thick of things in the Philippines in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And it sent chills down my spine, and I never forgot that, Gino. So just talk about that in Mr. Greco.
Well, Mr. Greco is an incredible man. Just, and, you know, I'm thinking about my uncle who was at Guadalcanal.
Oh.
And actually had scars to prove it. And when you're younger, you never appreciate just the magnitude of what this means. We're sitting in this room of trophies, of great athletes or teams that achieve something, but there's nothing that compares, nothing at all compares to someone who has served the United States in military, men and women that have fought for the country and fought for our right and our privilege to be able to talk about different things. It's like we do not get it. And I wish we did as a country, that supporting these veterans and supporting the people who have made our country safe. Like, we don't get it, or maybe we don't get it enough.
No.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because, you know, I had just passed one of our faculty, Bill Barlow, who's in the engineering department, is a veteran of 4 years. And
I love what they've done by saluting veterans, and every community, like our own, they have on those telephone poles various flags of people. But I see these names like Albanese, and names that I respect and admire, and I see the smiling face of these young recruits, and then I see their children who I grew up with, and now how we're turning into the older ones of the family as we would look into the eyes of my father and their fathers and your father. And I can tell from Shorty Havancic, who was killed in Vietnam, Andy Havancic, that was his son. Yeah. Joe Havancic, his uncle, fought in the Battle of the Bulge. And one summer, he was working at the brickyard in Falston, and he broke both of his legs. Bricks basically slid down this chute, and he got buried by the bricks. So he was off the entire summer, and he couldn't sleep at night because of the pain. So he would go out on the back porch, And I would wait for him to light that little cigar, and out I would go. And this literally went on every day for a solid 3 months. And he began to open up about his time in Europe in the Battle of the Bulge. And I think that's really when I first started to realize. And my uncle, who was a prisoner of war, would open up on Christmas after a couple of my dad's cocktails. And I realized how fortunate I was to really never have to face that. And I was very close to being drafted, and then obviously the Vietnam War stopped. But I just hope people understand, and I use this phrase all the time, but especially on Veterans Day, we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Rob, I got to tell you, being in football for 40 years of my life and going through football camp and making it miserable just pales. It doesn't even come close. I look at these men that have gone on in Marines, gone through boot camp, and I think every man wonders, do I have the secret sauce to be able to do that? And there are people like my strength coach, Billy Gray. I saw him Saturday, who was, in the Marines, made a career of it, came back and was one of the best people that we had running our program. But he went through it. These guys go through boot camp. Then they get the people that actually fight in wars. I can't fathom it.
Here's something, now we have all of these channels and the History Channel, and you can YouTube all this stuff to see it for yourself. But these heroes that walked amongst us, the former postmaster in New Brighton, Mr. Florentine, was in the Marine Corps, and we would sit on their neighbor's porch many, many nights. The Moldovan family, which was another family of mine, if you will, even though they weren't a biological family member, I was there. And we're telling these stories, or I'm listening to these stories one night, and my friend Eddie and his two sisters and mom and dad, here I find out that an uncle actually was in the Bataan Death March. I mean, how do we even top that? And I would say, what legacy are we going to leave after these men have left so much? And then my father, God rest his soul, he lost his hearing in the war because he fell off a ship. So one time we're sitting around at Christmas and I'm thinking, man, this has got to be a great story. You fell off the ship backwards and you lost your hearing in the one ear. What happened? Because, well, we had some homemade moonshine and I had a little bit too much. But that's my dad, you know what I mean? So I hope everybody realizes that there's a reason why this is the most powerful free nation in the world. And it's one of the reasons why I admire our president. He's always promoting the military and the true meaning of the flag and putting God first and family. And no, not perfect, no one is. But if you think about where we are and how we got here, you have some of these stories in your hometown too. And with most of these men, the greatest generation obviously gone, and now Vietnam veterans passing away at an alarming rate. And yeah, Afghanistan for 20 years, so they're passing there, and we have a number of people who have taken their own life trying to deal with what they dealt with in war. Just please take time, visit a cemetery, just reflect, say a prayer, and thank those who served this country, and yes, those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Because I can't imagine, but I do know this, I can't imagine a world without the men and women of the military.
They're true heroes. True heroes. I think you said it well.
Thank you. All right, we'll do more tonight on KDK. The coach, Gino DeMarco. Remember, take time to salute a vet, and more importantly, never forget those who made the ultimate sacrifice. It's your Pratt Pack from College Hill, Beaver Falls, Geneva College.